question, just get up to the front. The mic's up here. There's also a mic roving around.
Do you feel like a frog? Do you think that you're not doing enough? Do you think that you feel too comfortable in your situation? How is it here? Because I don't really know the situation in your country.
Hi, Jacek. I'm Kylie. I've been designing websites since I was 15. Now I'm a business owner and entrepreneur. So one of my new ventures I launched about 3 months ago is set to redesign or at least rethink the future of digital newspapers. So this talk was very relevant because in my research I found there aren't too many good examples to encourage more exploration and consumption from a digital newspaper standpoint. So what I wanted to tap into your brain was like, what's your vision for the future digital newspaper? Or what kind of other examples, apart from Huffington Post, that you've seen people tackle the digital newspaper of a new idea?
Okay, so I think you've seen here several points of my philosophy. The first is the strategy between print and online. Yeah? So you have to come up with an idea. Either you're selling your content or you're giving different content. Yeah. So either you have the same content as in print, and then you make a paywall, like Financial Times is doing it and makes a lot of money, like New York Times is doing it, or you just make a different content, like many actually companies, many newspapers in my Bonnier Business Press is doing. Like in Swedish example, they print different content in the newspaper and different content on the web. So actually there are two different products, and both of them are bringing a lot of money and have readers and have advertisers. So you have to find a strategy how to do it. Then when it comes to iPad, I was very excited many years ago about this, and I'm less and less excited when now about this, even though I'm working on these products and even though my company is a kind of leader technologically about this, because I don't want to read, I don't like to read newspapers on iPad. So I really kind of, maybe I shouldn't say it now, but I kind of don't believe in this. Because for me, it's a weird product. I read magazines. It's natural for me to open the GQ or Esquire magazine on iPad and read it once a month or several times throughout the month. But read a newspaper, which is updated once a day, it's kind of a unnatural experience for me. So I'm really not sure. That's why these guys that are using this FT model, this hybrid model that is more like live and kind of like a website, iPad thing, for me it's more natural because the website is more fulfilling my needs of consumption of the news, the short news, the fast news throughout the day. And if I want to read something longer, I'm not going to be reading everyday iPad newspapers. I'd rather be reading some magazine with some in-depth content. So I think the problem is that the model of the newspaper on iPad, it's a little bit not natural. It doesn't fit very well in this platform. And I don't really know what's going to be the future. Believe me, the results I'm seeing in Scandinavia, the market, for instance, we go to Sweden, these guys, almost everyone has iPads there. And in this business newspaper, the target, this guy, almost this is like a male in a higher income, everyone has iPad there, everyone. And nobody's buying this application for the newspaper. And this newspaper is everywhere and it has 150,000 circulation, but not online. In Sweden, like internet is everywhere and people buying on their phones, everything. It's like so much digitalized society. So I really don't know what's going to be the future in other countries.
Do you use Flipboard on your iPad?
Excuse me?
Do you use Flipboard? It's a news consumption app.
Yeah,
Flipboard.
sometimes.
Do you
yeah,
hate it?
No,
you don't use it much.
Not very often, but sometimes, yeah. Sometimes, yeah. There's some other application too. That when I'm looking for some niche content for my branch, for my interests, yeah. Then I really like to have this content on this. So yeah, you're right. This is actually a competition to this kind of application, like Flipboard type of applications.
It's tricky
This
space.
can be a competition for some people that are not like everyday news consumption, but they're looking for some news about their branches, their life, their business. This can be really an alternative for the newspapers. So somehow newspapers have to really think about this and maybe be a part of it.
Yeah. All right, thank you so much, Jacek. Thanks.
Welcome.
Just wanted to ask, for the digital magazines, what is it about digital magazines as opposed to newspapers that make it more palatable, more presentable on the iPad that makes you read it, as opposed, what is it about that? And what are your benchmarks? What are kind of digital magazines that you've seen that you think are sort of trendsetters or they are setting the trends for the future?
Okay, so I'm reading. Okay, there are two models. Basically, the most popular models of the magazines. The one is working on the News Plus platform made by Adobe, and this is the magazine like GQ or Wired with the same interface. And actually, this is the similar interface that is on the newspaper News Plus product. And another one is made, the application made in-house by guys from, for instance, like guys from Time Incorporated, and they make it for Time Magazine and Fortune Magazine. So they have different models of a structure of the newspaper and the reading of the iPad application and the navigation. The Adobe model is this Mac Plus model is about going, vertically, horizontally. So you actually scroll up and down, left and right. It's kind of like diving to a pool, and you're swimming, and it's dark, and you don't know where you are, but it's kind of exciting. The trip is kind of exciting, but you don't really know exactly where you are in the newspaper and in the magazine. So this is this kind of experience. And the Time magazine and Fortune, the magazine I read, for instance, it's more like a linear, natural, traditional, like reading a book. So it's like a flipping through pages in a horizontal, linear way. So there are two ways of doing these things. Probably Adobe will win eventually because, well, this is the power of Adobe. But okay, I like to read magazines and like GQ because, unlike newspapers, they can put more people into making this content. They can place a lot of these additional interactive elements on the page, like photo galleries, like the places when I can click with my finger and get some different layers of information. In newspaper, really, it's really hard to do it. We don't have time to do it. When I look at business models of making this iPad applications for newspapers, they usually want to put 1 or 2 people to produce it, which is still quite expensive. And in reality, the rest part of the layout team is doing this after hours. So it takes a lot of effort. It doesn't bring much advertisers, doesn't bring much circulation. So far, it's only generating costs. And these guys are not willing very much to put more effort into this, to put more attention to this. So you can really see it. Yeah, these products are not very exciting, are quite simple. It's still better than reading in a PDF newspaper, but it's not really very exciting. And I think that we either do simple PDF and make it cost less, make it very cheap and try to deliver some content to the readers, or really make it very well like the magazines do. The way in between, like we try to do it now, make it not too expensive, not too cheap, is not really working because it still can generate costs for us, but readers don't like it. They prefer to read printed newspaper than these iPad applications we are giving them. So that's why I think that either we put more effort into this and spend more money and wait for the future brings our results and make the level of the quality similar to the magazines in the newspaper, which will be really very hard. Or we find out some idea that it's either about making PDF, simple thing, or making this FT style application that is kind of combined with the website using HTML5, and then you have actually very similar product on the website on the iPad.
Okay, some of the best-selling newspapers in the world, they don't produce great designs, but people still buy them. And I'm not talking about the supermarket tabloids. Can you explain the situation?
Sorry, trying to get understanding of a question. You need to speak louder. Did you say some of the great newspapers in the world don't have great designs, but people still buy them?
People still buy them.
Yeah.
Why so?
Yeah, because they have content. Because they have content that actually doesn't need to be, okay, it needs to be designed, of course, but this doesn't bother readers so much. And but 80% of the newspapers doesn't have this kind of quality content. So we have to really try harder to present the stories, to be competitive on the market, to really be more reader-friendly, to really put accents on the moments that are really important so readers can digest our product in a much faster way. You know, the New York Times has a history of readership for many years, and they have such a high quality of journalism, and people are so loyal to the product that actually they can make some changes to design. It doesn't affect much of of course, you can make it better still. But the papers like New York Times are just maybe, I don't know, handful, yeah? So just few in the world that have such a high quality of content. And the most of the newspapers have to struggle with a, let's say, a little bit lower level of quality, and competition have the same level of quality, and they have to distinguish somehow from the market. So I think that's the case. It's just, you're just talking about some exceptionally good content that actually doesn't need to be designed well, and people will still buy it. But the rest of us doesn't have this high quality, and we have to really market our products. We have to really try to sell it better.
As you know, like some newspapers in the world, they've actually latched onto this concept of open journalism, like The Guardian, saying citizen journalists, crowdsource news, crowdsource opinions, and stuff like that. Do you ever think that there might be a future where design can be crowdsourced in a practical way?
I don't know. I don't have an opinion about this. There was some case in Korea, I remember. Yeah, there was some newspaper that was producing a lot of content from the readers. There was a lot of talks about this a few years ago, but it didn't really change the newspaper landscape. I don't see that too many newspapers are going this direction. Mm-hmm. So I'm not sure about it. It'll probably be still some part of it, yeah. But this is not like the answer for our problems, yeah. Like some years ago, we were saying, okay, the free sheets is the answer for our problems, because like 7-8 years ago, people were saying, okay, let's make all the newspapers free. And then they were saying that, okay, the citizen journalism, this is going to probably change the landscape. Not really, yeah. Of course, there are still free newspapers, yeah. There are some free newspapers that died. There are some newspapers that are still doing well. There are some papers that are using the citizen journalism. But I think this is not, we don't find this is the thing that we're going to use. And it's good, but this is not like some ultimate answer to our problems that, okay, from now on, the future newspaper will be done like this by readers, by bloggers,
I only ask because when you showed that picture of you guys scribbling on the wall, with just the thoughts and a couple of people kind of moving around, that in a miniaturized way feels like a very open form of creativity. I'm just wondering whether you thought that if you take it to an extreme, you can actually open it to crowds.
Yeah, there could be, but can you imagine how complicated logistically can this kind of process be?
And cool.
This process, which is very simple, it contains just 10 people. It's very complicated logistically. So I can imagine that our newsrooms opening to the audience. Yeah, but maybe.
I have a question for you. You mentioned that newspapers are going to look like model after magazines, and magazines model after books. Can you expand more? Are we on the right track in terms of magazine design, and what do you think the future is for us? Thanks.
So, as I look at what's going on, everyone, all these segments are trying to be someone else. Yeah, like everyone's trying to jump to someone else's position. It's kind of funny, and everybody is escaping from being newsy and fast. Yeah, everyone wants to be more timeless because this area is taken by digital publications. Yeah, so we all feel that this fast news and fast presentation will be taken by website and other digital platforms. So all the analog media, print wants to be more timeless. And the question is actually which direction is all heading? Because if newspaper is going to be more like magazines, then what at the end newspaper is going to be like? Yeah, maybe there won't be newspapers anymore. Yeah, maybe there will be only magazines at the end. So that's really interesting question. Because if I'm actually believing in this direction that we should be more like spreads, more visual, better written, experience more like a magazine in the newspaper, and from the content point of view, I believe that it should be more timeless, less newsy, more relevant. Then the question is like, what about magazines? What about the distinguishing between the real magazines and these newspapers that become new magazines, yeah? But maybe this will be the matter of the costs, yeah? Maybe we'll have some kind of very similar products a little bit like a second league magazines on a different paper and a cheaper production, yeah, with a slightly different content. So there can be some moment on the market that we will have this luxury, glossy paper, exclusive magazines, and we also have this kind of pretending to be wannabe magazines, newspapers that maybe even won't be daily anymore. It can be one point that these newspapers, like I remember I was starting some newspapers in different markets from being once a week, then we went twice a week, and then 5 times a week. So now this process can be reversed, yeah? We can be, instead of being 5 times a week, it can be 2 times a week, 3 times a week, then 2 times a week, and then maybe one day we become weekly again. So this can be a future for newspapers. They can become weeklies, printed on different paper, cheaper production, looking similar, slightly similar to magazines, but not exactly, because with a much cheaper production and slightly different content. Depends on the niche you want to target. So this can be a very interesting moment on the market. But at the end of this process, no one knows what's going to happen. Maybe this kind of newspaper is going to disappear. Actually, I have friends in Germany that are following trends in media and not in technology. And these guys are quite crazy. They think that in 10 years, everyone's going to have implanted the chip in a retina, and you will see this augmented reality. You wake up in the morning and you see, the layer of information. Yeah, I can see your name when I look at you. When I look at some building, Petronas Tower, I see some information about it, and all, the information about the jams on my work and all the news. So then the question about the platform, is it iPad or e-paper, whatever, is not relevant anymore. Yeah, because you have all the news stream in front of your eyes when you wake up. And these guys, they are promoting this kind of view. When I ask them, do you believe that we're still going to have some paper in the future? They say, yes, we will, because the world is becoming more and more virtual, and so like everything is so like digital, and you can't touch things. So the things that you really can touch and smell and feel that, and hear the music of flipping through pages, this will be kind of luxury, to have it in the future, this kind of product. But of course, it won't be million circulation every day, general newspaper about everything. No, it will be more niche, more segmented, targeted products with small number of pages, maybe small formats, not every day. So we're going to have this luxury, more expensive products in the future using paper in this, totally digitalized, augmented reality world.
Excuse me. Your story about the protection or importance of your view on the importance of freedom of speech. And is there any success in any countries who have done it? Share with us. Thanks.
Okay, so I know it quite well because the Poland, the country where I was living for many years, it was a communist country for some decades, yeah, and we had a problem with freedom of speech. Actually, our papers were censored, and I could see how my publisher Bonnier was working in the countries, in the Baltic countries like Estonia, Lithuania, and Latvia. For instance, in Estonia, they were making a newspaper in the times when it was a part of the Soviet Union still. So it was a part of Russia, actually, part of the Soviet Union, and they placed a private-owned, free newspaper in this market. And believe me, like 20 years ago, this market was totally controlled. You couldn't say much about what you wanted to say. And these guys had a vision, and they really supported. There was one man in Sweden that was really kind of putting a lot of money from the profits in Sweden to build the newspapers in the smaller countries that were actually emerging from the communism, because they knew that it's also, of course, it's a market opportunity for building a platform for advertisers and making money in the future, but also he knew that they can give the standards of journalism from west to the east. They can financially support the newspaper in the country that maybe at least one newspaper can speak freely without limits about politics and about the economy in this country. And they knew that this is very important. I remember there was one moment in Estonia that Russia, when Estonia was trying to be separated from Russia, Russia closed the pipes with oil, and they really like have no supply for heating, for industrial production, all these things. So the editor-in-chief of the Swedish newspaper, there was the mother of the newspaper of the Estonian newspaper, the editor-in-chief, made a decision to buy few ships with oil with the money from the newspaper and send it to Estonia. Can you believe that they made it? They buy a few ships full of oil and then they send it to Estonia. And from this point, the people of Estonia associated this move with this newspaper. And this newspaper now is like an icon for the society. Yeah? It's something more than newspaper. Yeah? Something much bigger than just a newspaper. What else? When I look at my perspective from the media market that I'm consuming, the newspapers and magazines are more important than television when it comes to freedom of speech. Because the most of the stories that were actually showing the not clear connections between the politicians and business or some corruptions, these stories were not revealed by television. The stories were usually revealed by magazines and newspapers. So I don't know if it's some specific of this region of Europe, but looks like you have to have the printed and analog media because they have some quality of journalists, they have some standards, they actually have some kind of motivation and will to make these stories and give it to the readers. The magazines, some social political magazines in Poland had such an important role in creating the political scene for many years. It's really, I can't imagine, the scene, the media scene without these magazines because there were moments that actually they were the only hope for, putting some standards and actually getting out of the box of some not very clear, clean connections between politics and business. So it's really absolutely very, very important to support the printed media in this kind of mission because television and internet will not give you this mission, will not fulfill this mission.
Okay, thank you very much. I can actually speak on behalf of the room, actually, thank you very much for an inspiring talk, not just on the designs themselves, but I think quite provocative in terms of the thoughts on business models and way of working and stuff like that. Vern and Andreas would like to actually present you with a small token of appreciation from the ABC. Oh, another round of applause, please.
Wow.
Big one for you to take.